The morning sun cast long shadows across the rocky terrain of the Afghan mountains as Lieutenant Sarah Martinez adjusted her tactical gear one final time. She had trained for this moment her entire military career, but nothing could have prepared her for the weight of what lay ahead. The intelligence reports were clear: a high-value target was hiding in a compound just 3 kilometers away, but between her SEAL team and their objective lay what military strategists called a kill zone. Sarah wiped the sweat from her brow as she studied the terrain through her binoculars. The valley stretched before them like an open wound in the earth, completely exposed with no cover for nearly 800 meters. Any movement across that barren stretch would be immediately visible to enemy snipers positioned in the surrounding hills. It was a death trap, plain and simple. Behind her, the 8-man SEAL team remained silent, each lost in their own thoughts. These were some of the most elite soldiers in the world, men who had completed missions that others deemed impossible. Yet here they sat, unable to move forward, unable to complete their objective. The weight of their hesitation hung heavy in the air like the dust that swirled around their boots. Commander Jack Thompson, a 20-year veteran with countless successful operations under his belt, lowered his own binoculars and shook his head. His withered face bore the lines of a man who had seen too much combat, made too many difficult decisions. The scar running from his left temple to his jaw served as a permanent reminder of a mission in Iraq where hesitation had cost lives. He would not make that mistake again. "Ma'am, with all due respect," Thompson said, his voice barely above a whisper, "this is suicide. We've got confirmed sniper positions at 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. They've got overlapping fields of fire covering every inch of that valley. No one makes it across alive." The other team members nodded in agreement. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez, the team's communications specialist, had been monitoring enemy radio chatter for the past hour. The intercepted conversations confirmed what they already suspected: the enemy was waiting for them. They knew the SEALs were coming, and they had prepared accordingly. "We could call for air support," suggested Petty Officer First Class David Chen, the team's explosives expert. "A few well-placed strikes could clear those sniper nests." "Negative," Thompson replied immediately. "Air support would alert every hostile within 20 kilometers. Our element of surprise would be completely compromised, and the target would disappear before we could reach the compound." Sarah listened to the discussion while continuing to study the terrain. She had been with this team for only 6 months, but she had quickly earned their respect through her tactical brilliance and unwavering courage. However, this situation was different from anything they had faced before. The stakes were higher, the risks greater. The target they were pursuing was Abdul Rahman al-Masri, a bomb maker responsible for attacks that had killed dozens of coalition forces over the past 2 years. Intelligence indicated he was planning something big, something that could potentially kill hundreds of innocent civilians. Time was running out, and every minute they delayed gave him more opportunity to escape or complete his deadly work. "What about the northern approach?" asked Staff Sergeant Tom Wilson, the team's sniper. "We could circle around, add maybe 4 hours to our timeline." "Too long," Sarah said, speaking for the first time in several minutes. "By the time we reach the northern approach, our target will be long gone." The intelligence window was closing fast. The team fell silent again, each man wrestling with the impossible nature of their situation. They had trained for years to overcome obstacles, to find solutions where none seemed to exist. Yet here they were, stopped cold by 800 meters of open ground. Sarah pulled out her tactical map and spread it on the ground. The others gathered around as she traced possible routes with her finger. Every option led to the same conclusion: crossing the kill zone was necessary, but doing so would likely result in casualties, possibly the entire team. "There has to be another way," muttered Corporal James Parker, the youngest member of the team at 22 years old. This was only his 3rd deployment, and the reality of their situation was beginning to sink in. His hands trembled slightly as he checked his rifle for the 10th time in as many minutes. Thompson noticed Parker's nervousness and placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Easy there, kid. We've been in tough spots before. We'll figure this out." But even as he spoke those words, Thompson knew they were running out of options. He had led his men through numerous dangerous missions, but he had never asked them to undertake what amounted to a suicide run. The very thought went against everything he believed as a leader. Sarah continued studying the map, her mind racing through possibilities. She thought about the families of the men around her, about the wives and children who were counting on their safe return. She thought about the innocent civilians who would die if they failed to stop al-Masri. The weight of both responsibilities pressed down on her like a physical force. The radio crackled to life, interrupting her thoughts. "Bravo team, this is command. What's your status?" Rodriguez keyed his microphone. "Command, Bravo team. We're in position, but we've encountered unexpected resistance. The target zone is heavily defended." "Copy, Bravo team. Remember, time is critical. The target cannot be allowed to escape." "Roger, command. We understand." The transmission ended, leaving the team once again in silence. The pressure from command was clear. Failure was not an option. Yet the tactical reality before them suggested that success might come at an unacceptable cost. Sarah folded the map and stood up, her decision crystallizing in her mind. She had joined the military to protect others, to stand between innocent people and those who would do them harm. That commitment did not waver simply because the path forward was dangerous. "Commander," she said, her voice steady and clear, "I have an idea." Thompson looked up at her, hope flickering in his eyes. "I'm listening." "The snipers are positioned to cover the obvious approach routes, but they can't cover everything simultaneously. If we create multiple distractions at different points, we might be able to draw their attention away from a single crossing point. That would require splitting the team," Wilson pointed out. "We'd be even more vulnerable individually than we are as a group." "Not necessarily," Sarah continued. "What if one person created the distraction while the others waited for the optimal moment to cross together?" The implications of her suggestion hung in the air. Someone would have to expose themselves completely, drawing enemy fire while the rest of the team made their crossing. It was essentially a suicide mission disguised as a tactical maneuver. "Absolutely not," Thompson said firmly. "I won't sacrifice one person for the sake of the mission. There has to be another way." But Sarah had already made her decision. She understood what needed to be done, and she had the courage to do it. The lives of her teammates, the success of the mission, and the safety of countless innocent civilians all hung in the balance. Someone had to step forward, and she knew it had to be her. She looked at each member of the team, these brave men who had become like brothers to her over the past months. She thought about their families, their futures, their dreams beyond the battlefield. Then, she thought about Abdul Rahman al-Masri and the devastation he would bring if they failed. The choice was clear, even if the consequences were not. Sarah Martinez had never backed down from a challenge, and she was not about to start now. The kill zone stretched before them like a test of their resolve, and she was prepared to meet that test head-on. As the sun climbed higher in the Afghan sky, casting the rocky landscape in harsh light and deep shadows, the SEAL team faced their moment of truth. 800 meters of open ground lay between them and their objective, defended by enemy snipers with orders to kill anyone who attempted to cross. The mission hung in the balance, and time was running out. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife as Sarah Martinez finished checking her gear one final time. Her plan was simple in concept but terrifying in execution. She would move to the eastern edge of the kill zone and create enough noise and movement to draw the attention of all three sniper positions. Once their focus was entirely on her, the rest of the team would have a narrow window to cross the valley and reach the compound. Commander Thompson grabbed her arm as she prepared to move out. His eyes showed the conflict between his duty as a leader and his responsibility to protect his soldiers. "Martinez, this is madness. Let me go instead. I'm the commanding officer here." Sarah shook her head firmly. "With respect, sir, you're needed to lead the team across once I create the opening. Besides, I'm faster and smaller. I've got a better chance of staying alive long enough to give you that window." Rodriguez had been monitoring enemy communications and looked up from his radio with a grim expression. "Lieutenant, they're getting suspicious about our delay. Intercepted chatter suggests they might be preparing to move to new positions."
If we don't act soon, we'll lose any tactical advantage we have left.
The weight of the situation pressed down on everyone. They all knew that conventional military doctrine would call for withdrawal and regrouping, but the intelligence on al-Masri was time-sensitive.
Every hour of delay increased the likelihood that their target would slip away or complete whatever devastating attack he was planning.
Sarah pulled out her tablet and showed the team a satellite image she had been studying. "Look here," she said, pointing to various features on the map. "There's a dry creek bed that runs along the eastern edge of the kill zone.
It's not much cover, but it's something.
I can use it to get within range of the sniper positions without being completely exposed."
Petty Officer Chen studied the image carefully.
That creek bed is barely 3 feet deep in most places.
And it only provides cover from one direction. It's enough, Sarah insisted. I'm not trying to win a firefight. I just need to create enough chaos to pull their attention away from your crossing point for 60 seconds. That's all you'll need.
Wilson, the team sniper, had been unusually quiet during the discussion.
Finally, he spoke up. "Ma'am, I've been studying those sniper positions through my scope.
They're professionals, probably former military.
They won't be easily fooled by a simple diversion."
"Then, I'll have to make it convincing," Sarah replied with a grim smile. Thompson made one last attempt to dissuade her.
"We could wait for nightfall.
Darkness would give us better cover for the crossing."
"Negative," Rodriguez interjected. "Intel suggests the target is planning to move tonight.
If we wait, we lose him for good." Sarah stood up and shouldered her pack. The decision was made, and further discussion would only waste precious time. She had volunteered for this mission knowing the risks, and she was prepared to face whatever consequences arose from her choice. "Here's how we do this," she said, her voice taking on the authoritative tone of a combat leader. "I'll move to the creek bed and begin my approach at 14:30 hours.
At 14:45, I'll begin the diversion. That gives you 15 minutes to get into position for your crossing."
She pulled out a small handheld radio and clipped it to her vest.
"Rodriguez, I want you monitoring Channel 7. When I give the signal Phoenix down, that means I've got their attention.
You'll have approximately 60 seconds to get the team across before they realize what's happening." The team members exchanged glances, each processing the reality of what was about to happen. They had trained together, fought together, and saved each other's lives on multiple occasions. Now they were being asked to watch one of their own walk into almost certain death. Parker, the youngest team member, looked like he might be sick.
"Lieutenant, this isn't right. There has to be another way."
Sarah walked over to him and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Sometimes there isn't another way, Parker. Sometimes you have to choose between bad options and worse options.
Our job isn't just to stay alive. It's to complete the mission and protect innocent people."
She turned to address the entire team.
"Each of you has families waiting at home. You have futures beyond this war, dreams that extend past this battlefield. But if we fail today, if we let al-Masri escape, how many other families will never see their loved ones again? How many innocent people will die because we weren't brave enough to take the risk?" Thompson nodded slowly, finally, accepting the inevitable. "What do you need from us?"
"Once you cross the valley, secure the compound and capture the target.
Don't worry about me. Don't look back. Complete the mission."
Sarah began moving toward the eastern edge of their position, but Wilson called out to her.
"Lieutenant, wait."
He handed her a small device that looked like a modified grenade.
"Smoke marker. If things go really bad, pop this. It might buy you a few extra seconds."
She took the device and clipped it to her belt.
"Thanks, Wilson.
Take care of each other over there." As Sarah moved away from the team, Thompson gathered his men around him. The next hour would test everything they had learned about trust, sacrifice, and the true meaning of brotherhood in arms. Sarah reached the edge of the creek bed and paused to study the terrain one more time. The dry creek stretched across the landscape like a scar, offering minimal cover but providing her only hope of reaching an effective position. From here, she could see the sniper nests positioned on the surrounding hills, small dark shapes that represented death waiting patiently for targets to appear. She checked her watch, 14:30 hours exactly. Time to begin her final approach. The creek bed was rougher than it had appeared from a distance. Loose rocks and thorny vegetation made silent movement nearly impossible, but Sarah pressed forward anyway. Each step carried her closer to her destiny and further from any hope of retreat. Halfway to her objective, she paused to catch her breath and assess the situation. The sniper positions remained inactive, their occupants probably growing complacent after hours of watching an empty valley. That complacency might be the only advantage she could exploit. Her radio crackled softly. "Phoenix, this is Eagle 1. Status report. Eagle 1, Phoenix. I'm in position and ready to begin the show. Are you ready for your run? Roger, Phoenix. We're in position and standing by." Sarah took a deep breath and chambered a round in her rifle. In a few minutes, she would announce her presence to 3 enemy snipers and pray that her teammates could cross 800 meters of open ground before those same snipers killed her. The irony was not lost on her. She had spent years training to stay hidden, to move without being detected, to strike without warning. Now her mission required her to do the exact opposite, to make herself the most visible target possible and trust that her sacrifice would serve a greater purpose. She thought about her parents back home in Texas, about the letter she had written but never sent, explaining why she had chosen this life of service despite their fears and objections. They would understand eventually, she hoped. They would see that some things were worth fighting for, worth dying for. The minutes ticked by slowly as Sarah waited for the appointed time. Around her, the Afghan landscape shimmered in the afternoon heat, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. This ancient land had witnessed countless battles over the centuries, had absorbed the blood of warriors from many nations. Today it would witness one more act of courage, one more demonstration of the lengths to which people would go to protect others. At 14:44, Sarah keyed her radio one final time. "Eagle 1, this is Phoenix. Beginning approach now. Remember, when you hear Phoenix down, that's your signal. Don't hesitate, don't look back, and don't let my sacrifice be in vain. Roger, Phoenix. Good luck, and thank you." Sarah Martinez rose from the creek bed and began walking toward the enemy positions, her rifle at the ready and her heart pounding with the knowledge that she was about to change the course of the mission forever. The first shot shattered the afternoon silence like thunder rolling across the mountains. Sarah felt the bullet whistle past her ear as she dove behind a large boulder, her heart racing but her mind crystal clear. The enemy had taken the bait. "Phoenix down! Phoenix down!" she shouted into her radio as more bullets began striking the rocks around her position. The snipers had revealed themselves, exactly as she had hoped, and their muzzle flashes gave away their precise locations. 800 meters away, Commander Thompson heard the signal and immediately gave the hand signal to move. The 7 remaining SEAL team members emerged from their concealed positions and began sprinting across the kill zone, their boots pounding against the rocky ground as they raced against time and death. Sarah popped up from behind her boulder and fired 3 quick shots toward the nearest sniper nest, not expecting to hit anything but needing to maintain the illusion that she posed a real threat. The response was immediate and overwhelming. All 3 sniper positions opened fire on her location, exactly as she had planned. Chunks of rock exploded around her as high-powered rifle rounds struck her cover. The sound was deafening, a constant crack of gunfire echoing off the surrounding hills. She could hear the bullets ricocheting off the stone, sending sharp fragments flying through the air around her. Through the chaos, Sarah managed to steal a glance toward the valley floor. Thompson and his team were halfway across, moving with the fluid efficiency that came from years of training together. They were going to make it, she realized with a surge of pride and relief. But her own situation was deteriorating rapidly. The boulder that had provided initial protection was being systematically destroyed by concentrated sniper fire. Each impact sent more chips flying, gradually reducing the size of her cover. Soon there would be nothing left to hide behind. Sarah pulled the smoke marker from her belt, the device Wilson had given her for exactly this situation. She armed it and threw it as far as she could toward the enemy positions before diving to a new location behind a smaller rock formation. The smoke grenade detonated with a soft pop, and thick gray smoke began billowing across the battlefield. It would not provide concealment for long, but it might buy her a few precious additional seconds. Her radio crackled through the noise.
Phoenix, Eagle 1. We're across. Repeat, we're across the valley and moving to objective.
Sarah felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her despite the desperate nature of her own situation.
The mission would succeed. Her teammates would capture al-Masri and prevent whatever attack he had been planning. The sacrifice would be worth it.
The smoke was already beginning to dissipate in the mountain breeze, and the sniper fire was becoming more accurate as the enemy adjusted their aim. Sarah knew she had only minutes, perhaps less, before her position became completely untenable. She thought about her decision to volunteer for this mission, about the chain of events that had led her to this moment. There had been other options, safer choices she could have made throughout her military career. But, each time, she had chosen the harder path, the one that involved greater risk but also greater service to others. A bullet struck the rock inches from her head, sending stinging fragments across her cheek. She could feel warm blood trickling down her face, but the wound was superficial. More concerning was the gradual reduction in the size of her cover as the enemy fire continued to chip away at the stone. Through the fading smoke, Sarah could see movement on the hills where the snipers were positioned. They were beginning to realize that they had been drawn into a trap, that their real targets had escaped while they focused their attention on a single diversionary threat. Soon they would begin looking for the rest of the SEAL team. She needed to keep their attention focused on her position for as long as possible, to give Thompson and the others the maximum opportunity to reach the compound and complete their objective.
Every second she could delay the enemy response was another step closer to mission success.
Sarah checked her ammunition and found that she had 2 full magazines remaining. Enough for a final stand, perhaps, but not enough to win a sustained firefight against 3 professional snipers in fortified positions. The mathematics of the situation were stark and unforgiving. Her radio crackled again.
Phoenix, Eagle 1.
We're at the compound.
Beginning assault now.
What's your status? Sarah ducked as another bullet sparked off the rocks above her head.
Eagle 1, Phoenix. I'm keeping our friends busy up here. Execute your mission and don't worry about me. Negative, Phoenix. Once we secure the objective, we're coming back for you. Absolutely not.
Sarah replied firmly, even as she shifted position to avoid the increasingly accurate enemy fire.
Your job is to complete the mission and get out safely. That's an order.
She could hear the sound of automatic weapons fire in the distance, indicating that Thompson's team had engaged the enemy at the compound. The final phase of the mission was underway, and her role as a diversion was nearly complete. The smoke had almost entirely cleared now, leaving Sarah with minimal concealment. She could see muzzle flashes from all 3 sniper positions as they continued to pour fire onto her location. The volume of incoming rounds was increasing, suggesting that the enemy had called for reinforcements.
Sarah made a decision that surprised even herself.
Instead of continuing to huddle behind the diminishing cover, she stood up and began moving. Not retreating, but advancing toward the nearest sniper position. If she was going to die here, she would do so on her own terms. The enemy snipers, caught off guard by her unexpected movement, momentarily ceased fire as they tried to track her new position. Sarah used that brief respite to cover another 50 meters, diving behind a new piece of cover just as the shooting resumed. Her bold movement had accomplished something important.
By changing her position dramatically, she had forced the enemy to adjust their aim and recalculate their firing solutions.
More importantly, she had demonstrated that she was still a credible threat, ensuring that they would maintain their focus on her rather than looking for the rest of the SEAL team. The sound of distant gunfire from the compound began to diminish, indicating that the assault there was nearing its conclusion. Sarah allowed herself a moment of hope that Thompson and his team had been successful, that al-Masri had been captured or eliminated before he could implement his deadly plan. Her radio came to life with the news she had been hoping to hear.
Phoenix, Eagle 1. Objective secured. Repeat, objective is secured. The package is in our custody. Sarah felt a surge of triumph even as bullets continued to strike around her position. They had done it. Despite the impossible odds, despite the kill zone that had seemed impenetrable, they had completed their mission. Al-Masri was captured, his network disrupted, his planned attack prevented.
Outstanding work, Eagle One, she replied into her radio.
Now get out of there and get home safely. Phoenix, we're not leaving without you. Sarah smiled grimly as she reloaded her rifle.
Thompson was a good commander and a loyal friend, but he did not understand that her mission was not yet complete. She still needed to keep the enemy snipers occupied long enough for the team to extract safely with their prisoner. She looked at her watch and calculated distances and travel times. The team would need at least 30 minutes to reach the extraction point with Al-Masri in custody. 30 minutes during which the enemy could not be allowed to interfere with their escape. The sniper fire was intensifying again as the enemy brought additional resources to bear on her position. Sarah could hear voices shouting in the distance, suggesting that ground forces were being organized to assault her location. Soon she would be facing not just 3 snipers but possibly dozens of enemy fighters. She thought about her family one more time, about the career she had built and the difference she had made in the world. She thought about the countless lives that would be saved because Al-Masri would never complete his planned attack. The equation was simple, her life in exchange for hundreds of innocent lives. Sarah Martinez had always known that military service involved sacrifice, but she had never imagined that the ultimate sacrifice would be required of her in such a stark and immediate way. Now, faced with that reality, she discovered that she was ready for it. The sound of approaching vehicles reached her ears, confirming that enemy reinforcements were arriving. Soon the 3 snipers would be joined by a much larger force, and her ability to maintain the diversion would come to an end. She keyed her radio one final time. Eagle One, this is Phoenix. Mission accomplished. Now get my boys home safely. As the sun began to set over the Afghan mountains, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez prepared for her final stand. She had volunteered to cross the kill zone when no one else would, and, in doing so, she had changed the course of the mission and saved countless innocent lives. The enemy forces were closing in, but Thompson and his team were safely away with their prisoner. The mission was complete, and her sacrifice had meaning. Sometimes that was all a soldier could ask for. In the distance, the sound of helicopters indicated that the extraction was underway. Her teammates would return home to their families, carrying with them the story of the day when everything seemed lost until one person stepped forward and changed everything. The kill zone had been crossed, the mission accomplished, and the price paid in full.